Shalom. First of all, I just start off by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. The belongers of teachers, elders, and apostles of Great Millstone. Likewise, brothers, put out this truth. Faithfully, fearlessly feeding the sheep unto you, brothers and sisters tuning in. Shalom. Today's lesson is titled, Esau is the same as before. Nothing new under the sun. Now, we're going to go into up-to-date, modern time video to show you the ways of this devil, Esau the Edomite, the so-called white man, and also a little bit of history, from a video that I found concerning how we have gone through this experience before. Okay, now this time you have cameras to be able to document it versus it being inside the history books. Okay, now I'm going to show you a quick video and then we're going to go into this article. So here's the video.
Stood out to me the most was going into the caged facility and witnessing where they housed over 32 grown men together with only 3 toilets, and those toilets were the same places that the folks would get their water from. And it was really appalling and disheartening to see. Not only that, but the director of Florida, the Department of Emergency Management, he was very evasive in his questioning. We often asked who were the vendors and things like that, and they continually said, oh, you have to file a public records request. They were very evasive. At the end of the day, this is a $450 million taxpayer dollar facility, internment camp that was just done for a political stunt when Ron DeSantis just previously, a few days before, vetoed appropriations that could have addressed mental health in our communities, that could have addressed the rising cost of home insurance. He decided to do and partake in this political stunt with Donald Trump, and it's just very upsetting.
Now, as you saw in that video, okay, you had these lawmakers, okay, these reporters that were supposed to go into the facility known as Alligator Alcatraz, and from what they saw, they can see that this facility, okay, is meant not only to house, okay, the children of Israel, okay, so-called Blacks, Native Americans, and Latinos. In particular, right now, they're looking at the Latinos, but it is to suppress any type of spirit that their captives, okay, which would be us, would have under these conditions. Okay, let's go into the scripture before we go into this article. Okay, this is the book of Ecclesiastes 1:9. It reads, the thing that has been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So everything repeats itself. You have the prophets that are here today that has been before. You have the same evil, wicked traitors, the 2/3 that, crucify our Lord, the Mashiach. They're here today, okay, as arrogant and rebellious as ever. You have the rulers of Rome. They're here today. And we have good old Donald J. Trump, who we have identified as Caesar Nero, okay? And here we are back in Rome again. So this is the article here. It says, Florida lawmakers allowed into Alligator Alcatraz say detainees packed into cages. Now, this is going to remind you of something in that next video that I'm going to show you. It says, deep in the hazardous and ecological fragile Everglades, hundreds of migrants are confined in cages in a makeshift tent detention facility Florida's Republican governor calls safe and secure, and Democratic lawmakers call inhumane. Of course, there is a lot of discrepancy, because you have a division here in Great Babylon, America. Okay, if this was the Democrats doing this, the Republicans would have said it's inhumane. Okay, and vice versa. It doesn't mean that the Democrats are any more better than the Republicans concerning the welfare, okay, of Jakes. Okay, we suffer under either one that's in power. It says 2 days after filing a lawsuit against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for being unlawfully denied entry to inspect conditions at the facility dubbed Alligator Alcatraz, members of Congress and state representatives were given a limited tour Saturday to inspect conditions after calling the lack of access a deliberate obstruction meant to hide what really is happening behind those gates. What we know is happening behind those gates. We're going to go a little further. Let's jump okay, down to lawmakers showing empty cells. It says on the tour, lawmakers said they were not allowed to visit areas where migrants are currently being detained, but instead were shown cells not yet being used. It says, Wiseman Schultz said each cage contained 3 small toilets with attached sinks, which detainees use for drinking water and brushing their teeth, sharing the same water used to flush the toilet. So they're not, we know the water that's used for flushing toilet is that brown water, okay, that brown salt water, okay. It's not really drinkable water. But again, as we've always said, okay, the ways of this devil, okay, towards us has always been very grievous. Okay, so our enemy is not going to give us fresh drinking water if we're being held in captive. It says when they toured the kitchen area, Wiseman Schultz said government employees were being offered large pieces of roast chicken and sausages, while the detainees' lunch consisted of a gray turkey and cheese sandwich and apple and chips. Okay, so gray turkey, if you know what gray turkey is, it's basically the turkey is rotten, pretty much. Okay, and there are reports that the food contained maggots. If any of you have been to Florida, you know Florida is very rainy. It's kind of got like a tropical type of atmosphere to it. A lot of tropical storm, a lot of hurricanes there, and it's very humid. Okay, and especially out there in the Everglades. Now they talk about other things that's taking place there, because on top of the fact that they're putting 28 to 30 men, grown men, okay, in these cages that really should hold maybe 1 or 2, okay, or 3 at the most, okay, they're packing them in. This will remind you, okay, if you've seen the pictures that we've shown you how we were bought over here, okay, a slave, and I'm going to show you that video clip. In fact, let's go into the scripture before I bring out this video clip, and we'll continue on in this article. This is the book of Psalms 10 and Psalms 5. It reads, his ways are always grievous, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. This is the man puffing at us, because the so-called white man does not have to ever worry about himself being in danger. The so-called white man can walk through any ghetto in America, and Jason will literally just move on the side. They will not attack him, okay? They might argue with him if he says something stupid, but they will not attack him, okay? But that is not the same for us, okay? We have to constantly be aware of our surroundings, what comes out of our mouth, okay, and how our body language, okay, is viewed by other tribes here, in particular the so-called white man, okay? So he puffs at his enemies, and the result of that we can see across this earth. But we're talking about what's taking place here with our people. It says he had said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity, which we know that's not the case. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud, which means he lies. He lies about anything that he wants to justify. If he wants to murder you, Esau, the Edomite, the so-called white man, will find a way, and he justifies his murders. He will justify his thievery. He will justify, okay, the decimation of nations and tribes and people, okay? Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privy set against the poor. Now, let's go back to this article here, and it says here, take a look at it. It says detained migrants family report difficult conditions, no access to lawyer. It says about 900 people are currently detained in the facility, Wiseman Schultz said during the news conference, but it has the capacity to hold 3,000 people and room for more, according to Kevin Guthrie, executive director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. His wife of 43 years, old Guatemalan man detained at Alligator Alcatraz, told CNN her husband is enduring harsh conditions similar to those described by lawmakers who toured the facility. After more than 2 weeks in the detention, she said he has yet to see a lawyer. Now, you can pause this and go around and take a look at this. They're talking about mosquitoes, obviously the snakes and other hazardous creatures that are around this place here. But when you look at the title of this, it says Florida lawmakers allowed into Alligator Alcatraz, say detainees packed into cages. Now, take a look at this video. It's about 5 minutes long, okay? And this should give you an an understanding of what we endured before. Okay, and yes, there's a such thing as, okay, reincarnation or regeneration, and all of us have been regenerated. Take a look at this video.
From about 1525 to 1866, 12.5 million Africans were taken from their homeland and forcibly transported across the Atlantic, a journey that approximately 2 million of them would not survive. By the turn of the 18th century, European merchants were building vessels capable of transporting hundreds of enslaved people per journey. These ships had extra portholes for ventilation, weapons mounted on deck in case of rebellion, and additional compartments added below deck to take on more human cargo. Before boarding the ships at African port cities, enslaved people were stripped of their clothing and remaining possessions and had their heads forcibly shaved. During boarding, which could take weeks or even months, enslaved people lived on the deck of the ship in a temporary wooden house constructed by the crew. The crew also installed netting around the deck of the ship, designed to catch those enslaved who might opt for death over forced servitude. Once moved below deck, enslaved people would find themselves stuffed into compartments with ceilings as low as 4.5 feet, where they would spend most of their voyage. They were segregated by gender and age. Adult men were kept separately and shackled in pairs. Women usually left unchained in their designated compartment, and children often free to move about the ship. There were no sanitary facilities of any kind. Enslaved people were forced to relieve themselves where they sat, creating hellish conditions when combined with the heat and lack of ventilation below deck. Disease was rampant. Dysentery, malaria, yellow fever, smallpox, measles, and influenza ravaged the enslaved and crew members alike. The enslaved people generally spent about 8 hours a day above deck, but were still separated by gender, with a barricado, a reinforced wall that could be used to protect crew members in case of a revolt. Enslaved people were also subject to forced exercise, which sometimes included dance and song for the entertainment of the crew. Enslaved captives deemed disobedient were tortured and beaten, usually whipped with the especially cruel cat o' nine tails, a tool designed to inflict maximum pain. Enslaved people who refused to eat their typical meal of rice and beans were forced to do so, sometimes with a speculum oris, a medieval tool used to force open a person's mouth. Women, while usually left unshackled, were raped and sexually abused by members of the crew, sometimes arriving in the New World, carrying the children of their attackers. But it was the women, using their minuscule freedoms, who would often coordinate mutinies against their captors. But these rebellions were rarely successful. The true extent of the horrors of the Middle Passage came to light in a 1783 court trial over the slave ship Zong. The Zong left present-day Ghana in August of 1781, with 442 enslaved on board. After a 2-month journey riddled with navigation errors, 62 enslaved people and 7 crew members had perished without reaching their destination. Disease was spreading throughout the ship, and fresh water was running dangerously low. Captain Luke Collingwood was afraid of the financial cost of more deaths. Enslaved people that died of disease were not covered by the ship's insurance, but the enslaved who drowned were. Collingwood ordered approximately 130 enslaved people thrown overboard. He claimed it was necessary to do so to halt the spread of disease. At the trial between the Zong's owners and their insurance company, the owners argued that because it was legal to kill sick animals for the health of a ship, it was legal to treat enslaved people the same. The court agreed with the ship's owners, but the trial itself exposed the horrors aboard the Zong, and its story was republished by British abolitionists with the name of the ship redacted, meant to show that this tragedy could happen on any ship transporting enslaved people across the Middle Passage. 24 years after the Zong trial, the international slave trade was outlawed in both Great Britain and the United States. It would take England an additional 26 years, and the U.S. another 58 years, plus a civil war, before the practice of slavery was officially abolished.
And as you saw in that video, okay, what did you see? The history of how we were brought over here, the conditions that we were in, okay? When we told you that Eve would came to America, okay, or the New World as they call it back then, many of them pregnant with the babies of, okay, of the captors, okay? The children were allowed to run on the boats, okay, as they see fit, because we know this man is also a pedophile. So of course they allow the children to run. So you can see here, what they're saying here is that there were women and children. They separated the men from the women. Okay, the women were allowed to walk around freely, of course, because they were being, you know, they served the purpose of the people who ran the ships. Okay, the men on the ship, and also the children, because we know this man is a pedophile. But the men were packed down inside there. You can see in the condition, okay, in that video, how the men were stacked on each other. There was no running water, no toilets. They only had holes open so that you can breathe through. Many of our people, and they called a number, they said somewhere around 2 million died on the way here. It could be a hell of a lot more. Many of our people died, never made it here. They were regenerated or reborn, okay, to go pick cotton and serve the judgment of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, said that he would put us in, pursuant to Deuteronomy 28, okay? So many of our people, I cannot even begin to fathom, okay, and the Lord has shown mercy on us by not allowing us to remember that experience. I cannot even begin to fathom living in that condition. But here we are, back in 2025, and once more again, we're about to go through that again. This is the book of Isaiah 31:1, because you Jakes, you voted for this man. Okay, now we know it's fixed. We know there's no such thing as you have the ability to vote any prince into power. But the fact that you held up a sign, that you went to a booth and cast your ballot, okay, which is what you're thinking in your heart, you're giving yourself over to this man. You did this. But here it is. Look at this. Hispanics and Latinos for Trump 2024. Negroes or blacks for Trump's 2024. And then, of course, you Edomites, okay, because you think that this is not going to come to you. Here it is. Get them out, okay? Deport them. You want to see MAGA great again. Y'all remember, y'all voted this man in. This is the figurehead, okay, that's representing the wicked rulers of this earth, who are the short callers that we don't see walking the streets every day or on television, okay? The Illuminatis, the elites, okay? You did this. So when this come to bite you in your ass, when you're now getting yourself put into alligator Alcatraz, okay, in Alabama or in San Diego or wherever the park, they say they can build more of these things. See, this is not meant to just cage you. This is meant to terrify you, okay? This is how they're going to scare the rest of the population into obedience for their new world order. It says, woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither see the Lord Yahweh Shai. This isn't talking about the Edomites. This is talking about you Jakes. Okay? So y'all are prideful. Y'all are prideful. Okay? But that pride is going to get you. And we see this pride consistently every day, especially Jakes them who, you know, have $1 to spend, or they think that they're living it easy. You know, it's not coming for them, you know, whatever the case is like that. No. Okay? You need to pull your head out of your ass and go type in the word FEMA encampment, internment camps, okay, or FEMA installation across America. And you can see that there's thousands of them waiting to be filled. Okay, you're not going to be fed, as that article described. You're not going to be sleeping on comfortable, you know, beds. You know, like how you would probably see in these, you know, prison shows and stuff like that, where they have their bunk bed and a TV to watch. No. Okay, this is going to be different. You're going to go hungry. Okay, you're going to be sick. You're going to experience exactly the way we experienced it, being brought over from Africa, okay, or wherever they brought us from, okay, over here, in which a lot of us did not make it. Only the strong ones was able to make it. Imagine just laying next to your dead brothers, man, smelling that rotten flesh. Okay, I can't even fathom that. I don't want to. I'd rather be dead. Okay, let's close with the book of Jeremiah 11. In verse 11 it says, therefore thus said the Lord, Yahweh Shai, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape, and though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. So this is the Lord going to be telling us not to throw any prayers up for you. So each and every one of you in these pictures and who went up to that voting booth, may the Lord Yahweh Shai put the spirit in Esau to grab your ass. And those of you who reject the word of the Lord Yahweh Shai from the prophets, may the Lord send these Gurga troops to your house and grab you and your children, okay, and put them in these alligator Alcatraz. And we're not going to throw a damn prayers for your ass. We're just going to make lessons. That's what I'm doing right now, okay? So this is not a pity lesson for the people down there. We're just bringing out the fact that this happened before and it's happening right now. So I'm not feeling any type of pity for the jakes that are inside there right now, all right? This is the judgment that the Lord Yahweh has subjected them to. I don't want to get subjected to it. Okay, it says, then shall the cities of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem go and cry unto the gods unto whom they offer incense. I can guarantee you, they're inside there going, Jesus, Jesus, mother of Jesus, Mary. You know, clutching their little rosary, if they still have that around their neck like that, still trying to pray to the so-called white man God, you know, Jesus. Okay, they don't know the true Paleo-Hebrew name. They don't know their God, their power. Okay, and they're praying to a false deity that can't do shit for them. All right, it says, but they shall not save them at all in the time of their trouble. For according to the number of thy cities were thy gods, O Judah, and according to the number of the streets of Jerusalem have ye set up altars to that shameful thing, even altars to burn incense unto Baal. And that's the name of that's the way our people think. When you cross that border, you're crossing that border because you want to come over here and you want to be an American. You want to live the American life. Okay, well, you're living it. There it is right there. Alligator Alcatraz. And there's those who have been here all the while who've given their heart over to Baal, okay, the so-called white man image, his God, okay, his power, okay. That's why it says, woe to those who go down to Egypt, because this place is known as spiritual Sodom in Egypt. And there you are right now. That's how he's thanking you, okay. And boy, I see so many people. I can't wait till these Gurga troop grab their ass and bring them into that reality check. Oh my goodness. Okay. It says, therefore pray not for these people, neither lift up a cry or pray for them, or prayer for them, for I will not hear them in the time that they cry unto me for their trouble. So the Lord is not going to hear you when you're in that situation. While you're out here walking around right now, you don't have handcuffs on you, you're not hog tied, you're not in a prison internment camp. You have the opportunity to repent. And for you, man, you have the opportunity to go out there just like how we do. Okay? As the Mashiach says, the labor is great, but the help is short. Meaning what? We need more men out there on the highway and the byway. We need more men, okay, doing these lessons. Okay? We need men, period. Instead of bitches, man. But that's okay. Okay? That's okay. But there's only few. Right? You're right to bullshit around, and then when the white man grabs your ass, now you're praying to sweet Jesus, and we're not gonna pray to Yahushua to send angels to save your ass. We're not. Okay? We've been warned not to pray, or else we're gonna get thrown in that condition. And from what I'm seeing, and from the two videos you've seen here, I don't want no part of that. So it sucks to be you doggone niggas and spicks that's gonna be in that situation. Lord willing, the elect was edified to close up by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahushua Ba'ashim, Rakakadash, Shalom.